apostate, who has shattered the unity of Quraysh, picked holes in their religion, found folly with their wise men, and blasphemed their gods. Umar, I am sure your soul has deceived you. Do you think that Banu Abd Manaf would let you walk on earth? If you slain Muhammad, why don't you take care of your own family first and set them right? Which of the folk of my house? Asked Umar angrily. Your brother-in-law and your sister have apostatized, meaning to say, they have become followers of Muhammad and abandoned your religion. Umar directed his footsteps to his sister's house. As he drew near, he heard the voice of Khabab bint Arad, who was reading the Quranic chapter Taha, mystic letters T and H. TH. To both of them, Khabab, perceiving the noise of his footsteps, retired to a closet. Fatima, Umar's sister, took hold of the leaf and hid it. But Umar had already heard the voice. What sound was that I have heard just now? Shouted the son of Khattab, entering angrily. Both his sister and her husband replied, You heard nothing. Nay, said he, swearing fiercely. I have heard that you have apostatized. He plunged forward towards his brother-in-law and beat him severely. But Fatima rushed to the rescue of her husband. Thereupon Umar fell upon his sister and struck upon her head. The husband and wife could not contain themselves and cried aloud, Yes, we are Muslims. We believe in Allah and his messenger Muhammad. So do what you will. When Umar saw the face of his dear sister besmeared with blood, he was softened and said, Let me see what you were reading, so that I may see what Muhammad has brought. Fatima was satisfied with the assurance, but said, O brother, you are unclean on account of your idolatry. None but the pure may touch it. So go and wash first. He did so and took the page and read the opening verses of the chapter Taha until he reached, Verily I am Allah, La ilaha illa anna. None has the right to be worshipped but I, so worship me and offer prayers perfectly, Ikamat as-salat, for my remembrance. Umar read the verses with great interest and was much entranced with them. How excellent it is, and how graceful. Please guide me to Muhammad. And he said, And when he heard that Khabab came out of concealment and said, O Umar, I hope that Allah has answered the prayer of the Prophet. For I heard him say, O Allah, strengthen Islam through either Umar ibn al-Khattab or Abu Jahl bin Hisham. Umar then left for a house in Safa where Muhammad had been holding secret meetings along with his companions. Umar reached that place with the sword swinging by his arm. He knocked at the door. The companions of the Prophet turned to see who the intruder was. One of them peeped through a thick chink in the door and reeled back, exclaiming, It is Umar with his sword. Hamza, dispelling the fears of his friends, said, Let him in as a friend. He is welcome. As a foe, as if he will have his head cut off with his own sword. The Prophet asked his companions to open the door. In came the son of Khattab. The Prophet advanced to receive the dreadful visitor, caught him by his garment and scabbard, and asked him the reason of his visit. At that, Umar replied, O Messenger of Allah, I come to you in order to believe in Allah and His Messenger, and that which He has brought from His Lord. Filled with delight, Muhammad, together with his companions, cried aloud, Allahu Akbar, Allah is great. The conversion of Umar was a real triumph for the cause of Islam. So great and instant was the effect of his conversion on the situation that the believers who had hitherto worshipped Allah within their four walls in secret now assembled and performed their rites of worship openly in the holy sanctuary itself. This raised their spirits, and dread and uneasiness to begin to seize Quraysh. Ibn Isaac narrated on the authority of Umar, when I embraced Islam, I remembered the archenemy of Muhammad, Abu Jahl. I sat out and knocked at his door. When he came out to see me, I told him directly that I had embraced Islam. He immediately slammed the door repulsively, denouncing my move as infamous and my face as ugly. In fact, Umar's conversion created a great deal of stir in Mecca, that some people denounced him as an apostate, yet he would never waver in faith. On the contrary, he persisted in his stance even at the peril of his life. The polytheist of Quraysh marched towards his house with the intention of killing him. Abdullah bin Umar narrated, while Umar was at home in a state of fear, there came Al-Asbin, wearing an embroidered cloak and a shirt having silk hems. He was from the tribe of Banu Sam, who were our allies during the pre-Islamic period of ignorance. What's wrong with you? He said. Your people claim that they will kill me if I become a Muslim. Al-As said, nobody will harm you after I have given protection to you. So Al-As went out and met the people streaming in the whole valley. He said, where are you going? They replied, we want son of Al-Khattab, who has embraced Islam. Al-As said, there is no way for anybody to touch him, so the people retreated. With respect to the Muslims in Mecca, Umar's conversion had a different tremendous impact. Mujahid, on the authority of Ibn al-Abbas, related that he had asked Umar bin al-Khattab why he had been given the epithet of a Faruq, he who distinguishes truth from falsehood. He replied, after I had embraced Islam, I asked the Prophet, aren't we on the right path here and hereafter? The Prophet answered, of course you are. I swear by Allah, in whose hand my soul is, that you are right in this world and in the hereafter. I therefore asked the Prophet why we then had to conduct clandestine activism. I swear by Allah, who has sent you with the truth, that we will leave our concealment and proclaim our noble cause publicly. We then went out in two groups, Hamza leading one and I the other. We headed for the mosque in broad daylight. When the polytheists of Quraysh saw us, their faces went pale and got incredibly depressed and resentful. On that very occasion, the Prophet attached to me the epithet of Al-Faruq. Ibn Masud related that they, the Muslims, had never been able to observe their religious rites inside the holy sanctuary except when Umar embraced Islam. Suhaib bin Sinan, in the same context, said that it was only after Umar's conversion that we started to proclaim our call, assemble around. Assemble around and circumambulate the sacred house freely. We even dared retaliate against some of the injustices done to harm us. In the same context, Ibn Masud said, we have been strengthened a lot since Umar embraced Islam. Quraysh representatives negotiate with the Messenger of Allah. Shortly after the conversion of these two powerful heroes, Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib and Umar bin al-Khattab, the clouds of tyranny and oppression started to clear away, and the polytheists realized that it was no use meting out torture to the Muslims. They consequently began to direct their campaign to a different course. The authentic records of the biography of the Prophet show that it had occurred to the Meccan leaders to credit Muhammad with ambition. They, therefore, time and again plead temptation. One day, some of the important men of Mecca gathered in the enclosure of Al-Kaaba, and Utbah bin Rabia, a chief among them, offered to approach the Prophet and contract a bargain with him whereby they give him whatever worldly wealth he asks for, on condition that he keep silent and no longer proclaim his new faith. The people of Quraysh endorsed his proposal and requested him to undertake that task. Utbah came closer to Muhammad and addressed him in the following words: We have seen no other man of Arabia who has brought so great a calamity to a nation as you have done. You have outraged our gods and religion, and taxed our forefathers and wise men with impiety and error, and created strife among us. You have left no stone unturned to estrange the relations with us. If you are doing all this with a view to getting wealth, we will join together to give you greater riches than any Qurayshite has possessed. If ambition moves you, we will make you our chief. If you desire kingship, we will readily offer you that. If you are under the power of all evil spirit which seems to haunt and dominate you, so that you cannot shake off its yoke, then we shall call in skillful physicians to cure you. Have you said all? Allah asked Muhammad. Have you said all? Asked Muhammad. And then, hearing that all had been said, he spoke forth and said,